Welcome back, and now we want to place the anchor bolts, and there are two options here. The one I showed you how you can use macro and macro. I always prefer you work with customize. You do things the way you want it to be done. Now there are two options you can use, either macro, and you can also just use manual way or customizing the way you want it to be. Now, we have these in place. We have the stiffeners in place, but we don't have the holes. We don't have the bolts. We don't have the anchor bolts. Now, we want to use these stiffeners as the benchmarks or the datums of our bolts locations. Now, I want to use the midpoint here of these stiffeners to locate the midpoint or the point that we intend to use as or to define the location of our bolts. So I'll come to edit. So under edit, I'll come to drop down arrow here and pick on the point. So the single point alone will not help us because you need the midpoint here. So I'll pick this edge of this and edge of this midpoint and get a dividing point right there. So I'll come to dividing point. I'll just mouse over the midpoint of this particular stiffener right there and come here and mouse over the midpoint of this particular stiffener right there. So that will locate a midpoint here. So since we have the midpoint here, we want to create holes all around so that we come now with anchor bolts and locate and place them right on the bolts that on the place or fix the anchor bolts. Now, the rules in creating holes here, we need some extra points that will help us in creating the holes. So the hole will be used for anchor bolts of 20 or M20 or a die of 20. So the hole should be approximately 22 millimeter. So I'll select on this point right here and right click and come to special copy and pick on linear. So we check on the axis or the orientation of the XYZ plane. So let me just reset this so that I give it an offset of 11 because the hole will be 22 millimeter in diameter. So on the X direction, I'll feed in 11 millimeter right there and click copy. So I'll copy that on that direction, and also I'll copy another one and reset that, close that, and I'll come back here and select on this, right click and come to special copy and pick on linear, and this time round I'm going to populate this on the Y direction. I'll reset that and come on the Y direction and just type 11 millimeter and click copy. So I have 3 points in place that defines a quarter of that diameter of the whole diameter of our hole. Now I'll come to edit. So under edit, I'll come to first of all deactivate this point because that copy command is still active. So once I'm within the edit, I'll be able to access this tool that will be useful for us in creating hole. So I'll come to cut and click on the drop down arrow here. So under drop down arrow here, we'll be able to get reach out to variety of tools that will be can be used, like creating hole, fitting, and creating hole by with another part. And first of all, let's create a polygon or a circular hole. If I click on that, the moment I click on that, we'll have this create cut. So under create cut, we have type of cut. If I click on that drop down arrow, I'll have a circular cut. So if I click on that circular cut, I'll be asked the depth of the cut, the thickness of the cut. So the thickness of the cut will enter the exact thickness of this particular plate. And as I had showed you, or as you had did before, the thickness of the plate was 20 millimeter thick. So that is what will feed here, 20 millimeter. So usage is just general, or we can use it, we just define it as a whole. And circular cut, to make our cut more defined, or segments. So this the count is just the segments around the circle. So to make our circles that smooth, we can give it maybe 50 segments there, so that we make it smoother. So once I've done so, I'm going to click select the points. So I'm going to select you can read here, select the profile of the plate here. So the plate is this. So the next is select the center and 2 points on the circle. So I'm going to select on the center here, just mouse over there. I'll select the center, then select the next point right there. Then I'll select the next point right there. So the moment I select on that, I'll be able to have my circle in place. So the moment I've created that, I'll select outside to deselect that. So we have a hole in place. So this is a hole. So we want to populate this hole around this plate, this base plate. So how do you select that? Because if we select it, we select everything. So the reason why we are not able to select we are not able to select this hole is because we've disabled the cut visibility. So if we click on that, we'll be able to see now we have the visibility of our cut. So if I select on the hole right there and right click and come to special copy and pick on rotate, I want to populate this hole around by at 30 degrees, and the count will remain the same as the stiffener. So I'll just feed in here 11. So the angle is 30, offset on 0, on z axis is 0. So I'll still use this center here to rotate all this, populate this by rotate about this center. So I'll go ahead and click run. So if I click on run, I'll be able to have the holes populated around the whole column, right at the center of in between these stiffeners. So if I close that, and click on empty screen there, and right click and maybe disable the cut tool there, you can see we have the holes in place. So the next thing we are going to bring in is anchor bolts inside these holes. So I hope that will be very simple to do. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to access the anchor bolts, and the anchor bolts will actually populate the same way. So let's meet then on the next presentation, and bye bye.